is a true statement right there. And this past weekend, Spirit had me reflecting and saying, what else do we want to do with the podcast? And the truth is, I've had this podcast going in some way, shape, or form for probably, gosh, I think almost 3 years now. And it's evolved throughout the time. And once upon a time, it had a totally different name. And when we moved to supporting witches in recovery, it was changed to the Sober Witch Life podcast. And so I try to go live every single week. And it doesn't always work. Sometimes that's because I don't necessarily have a deep topic that I want to discuss. And other times it's just because life gets in the way. But I try my darndest to make a commitment and show up for you. And so when I was reflecting on what else we might be able to do, Spirit wants me to offer some readings. So we're going to try this once a month towards the end of the month. So it'll probably be like the fourth week of the month, like today. We're going to do a reading for the collective for the month ahead. Now, the cool thing is I do record this live, and maybe at some point, and I stream it live to YouTube. Maybe at some point I'll be able to pay attention to the comments if we get enough folks that are watching that are interested, and I might be able to actually do it live on YouTube. But for the time being, we're just going to do it this way, like it's just the podcast. So I'm going to shuffle the cards and tell you a little bit about myself and why I'm doing this. So I stepped into recovery in 2019, and it was the beginning of 2020 when I stopped and took a look and said, what in the world is it that I really truly want to be doing on a regular basis that connects me to my spirituality? And the answer came pretty quickly and pretty clearly. It was embracing the magic of witchcraft, right? Using that to keep me sober. And one of the ways was these cards. Maybe not these cards specifically, but pulling cards every single day. And so for almost the last 6 years, that's exactly what I've done. And shortly thereafter, I think it was like 2 weeks after that, I said, how can I go deeper? How can I commit to something weekly? And I find that when we commit to other people, we're a little bit more likely to be accountable. And so I started to go live every single Tuesday, pulling cards for people that would show up on my Facebook. It was a beautiful practice, and it was the catapult, the catalyst, the spark, the inspiration for me deepening my own psychic gifts. And so typically, if I were to sit down with you in a session, it's very rare that I use cards, right? Spirit speaks to me pretty loudly and clearly through pictures and words and sounds and feelings. But I find it's very beneficial to use these when we're taking a look ahead, especially when we're looking at from the collective. So we're going to look at the month of November. So we're recording this October 27th, 2025. So this is November of 2025. And I thought this was really poignant because this is the beginning of the year. This is the beginning of the pagan calendar. November is right after we step out of Samhain, we start the first of the year. And so I am going to do, I think it ends up being a 10 card pull. And we're going to look at first card is going to see the theme. And you can kind of think of this a little bit of the wild card, what we can see weaved in and throughout the entire month of November. We're good. Okay. Truce. I'm using the Thoth Tarot deck, and it does have a couple of words. And I think these words are really lovely for people to start to understand what these cards really embody. And I love this deck from a recovery perspective because it is about the shadow work that we do amongst ourselves. And so to me, the entire theme is coming to some kind of truth, some kind of realization, right? This is the Four of Swords. So think about when we've gone through turmoil and we've gone through things that have maybe torn us apart, and I don't mean from a physical perspective, I mean that mental, emotionally and mental. Now is the time from a truth perspective. We come to realizations of things that maybe have been tapping on our doorway, maybe have been burdens that have been weighing on us, and we get a better understanding of what that might be, right? That's what this card means. And we're going to see this and how it shows up throughout the months for us. So this is the truce card. I know if that's backwards for you guys. I think it might be. Is there anything else, Spirit, to speak to this particular one? There's this real feeling of like looking at things straight on, no longer being blinded by other emotions, no longer being blinded by other people's opinions, their perspectives, like truly having what we need to come to a place of truth amongst ourselves. And we're going to see this once again, how it weaves throughout the month. Week 1, this very first week of November, we're going to look in each of these weeks on 2 aspects, what I call the light and the shadow of each of the weeks. What is clear? What is apparent? What is it that we are going to be obviously looking at and dealing with? And then what is the shadow aspect? What is something that may come up, bop us in the head or be a bit more difficult for us to want to embrace? And I think this is really important with this truce, because this is where the lesson is going to come from, is what I'm hearing. Okay. So the week 1, the Queen of Discs is in light. She did show up reverse. And the way that I read reverse cards is not in a reverse meaning, but in a resistance to the energetic. And so there are things very clearly in this particular week that you're going to be called to look upon, look back on. There's a lot of reflection that you're going to be asked to do over the course of this first week of November of the past couple of months, and probably from June all the way up till October. Have your actions been true? What you set forward to do, what you had the intentions to do, is that what you actually worked on and focused on? Or were you distracted? Right? Sometimes some of us set goals, we set intentions, we set a plan to move forward. And then what we do is we busy ourselves with a whole bunch of things that really don't matter, that aren't related to what we actually need to be focused on. That's what you're going to be called to take a look at in this first week. And I want you to look at this, and the shadow is the 9 of cups on this one. What's and the card is happiness. I want you to evaluate if the plan that you set forward on was truly something that was set and planned out of obligation, or because it was something that was going to truly bring you peace and joy. Sometimes we literally create our visions, our goals, our intentions moving forward in life, not because it's exactly what we want, but because it's what is expected of us. So when we go through transitions in life, whether it's stepping into recovery, whether it is letting go of a previous job, letting go of a relationship, taking on a new adventure, sometimes we set all of our expectations up based upon what other people expect us to be doing, how they expect us to be acting, how they expect us to be operating. And the reflection that you need to look at in this first week, this truth, so to speak, and once again, this truth to come to, is whether or not the actions you were taking were aligned to what was going to make you happy, fulfilled, like literally filled with joy, right? Were you just checking off a bunch of boxes to kind of keep yourself busy, so to speak? That's this first week. Looking back, and once again, as I said, June, July, August, September, October, these months, and making that evaluation. The second week in November. Was the Aeon. And you can see this is the 20th card in the deck. This is a very different card in the Thoth deck as compared to any of the Rider-Waite decks. And the Aeon is this embracing, it represents this embracing of a new frontier is the word that comes to mind, a new ideal that comes to mind. And again, looking back and taking that reflection, there's this resistance. Again, the card was upside down, reversed. So there's a bit of resistance that's going on. This truce that you need to come to truth with, right? This realization um, in your recovery journey, in your path of healing. There might be some temper tantrums that are kind of going on. It doesn't feel as though it's working in your favor. You know, I had somebody recently say to me today, because of things that are happening, it's really hard right now to think that the universe is conspiring in my favor, right? Because it's forcing and causing some very difficult and uncomfortable situations for them. And the reality is sometimes that's going to happen. Sometimes it will. And you've got to pause and you've got to stop and you've got to ask, are you doing all of the magical work that you know is possible to try to help shift things in your favor? Or are you truly just sitting back and expecting the universe to deliver exactly as you desire without ever knowing what that is or casting the intentions otherwise? The shadow card in here is the high priestess. It is the priestess. And so you are being called to do magic. And I don't think that you've been diligent in that practice. And magic doesn't have to be complicated. I think sometimes people overcomplicate what magic truly is. They think they've got to go to the store, they've got to get the candles, the oils, the herbs, they've got to find the perfect offering. Magic is you. It's all about what you have with inside of yourself. You have every single one of the elements present within your own physical body. You have air in what your voice is. You have fire in the passion and the motivation and the actions that you can take. You have water in your emotions and the embodiment of whatever it is that you desire. And you have earth in your literal physical form, right? And last but not least, you have spirit to be able to guide you towards whatever it is that you need to do. So you are being called to conduct some magic, to set some big visions, some big intentions, looking backwards again, right? Coming to this realization that you are more powerful in your recovering and your healing journey that you're giving your credit for. For some odd reason, I'm getting this feeling that this is needs to be said very directly, right? And I try to be very kind, but for some odd reason, like Spirit is saying, you have been lazy in your magic, right? You have been lazy in your magic. And sometimes, again, it doesn't have to be complicated. It can be as simple as creating the beautiful prayer intention, the beautiful intention, and saying it out loud and embodying the feeling and the emotion and then asking Spirit to guide you towards the actions that will get you there. Have you done that? Let's see, week 3. Hmm. The Prince of Discs. I feel like there's movement that's going on by the time we get to week 3. And the picture that is showing up in my head, and literally the card, we're watching him from a bowl perspective. He's like the Prince of Discs is literally kind of charging with the bowl, and you can see he's got a globe there, representative to me of the world of the earth. There are things that you literally need to move, and it's not going to be easy by this third week in November, right? And when I say literally move, I'm meaning taking action, taking steps, taking efforts and intentions to moving forward. And so when I go back and I look at this truce and this wild card, um, I'd encourage you to take a look and see what have you been ignoring again, right? So if you got lazy in your magic, what have you been ignoring? Have you, let things pile up? Have you not cleared off the altar? Have you not been practicing? For me, one of the things that I have to remind myself very often is my prayers, my daily prayers, when I find myself going a couple of days without stating them, and they're not complicated. That to me is a direct reflection that I am not doing all of the actions and the things that I need, because in those prayers are my gratitude, are my asks for protection, right? And so this is your reminder by week 3 to make sure that you are taking the actions that you need to be taking. Let me see what else Spirit has to say about these. Hmm. And some of this has been because of fear, like you're going to hit a pothole, right? And everything's going to kind of fall apart. There's a lot of fear that's underlying in this like lack of action, this lack of movement forward, this lack of taking steps, right? And some of you may be having some of the perfectionists show up, right? I think a lot of us that have been in recovery, especially if we have a strong, a really big, intense kind of trauma background, we often find ourselves in the position of perfectionism, trying to always do things to perfect nature. Uh, Mostly because we didn't, maybe wanted to get our ass chewed out, right? We didn't want to ruffle anybody's feathers. We didn't want to get called out. We didn't want to create more trauma, so we were as perfect as we could be. And in some regards, this can serve us pretty well, especially in like a career. But it comes with a lot of burdens, right? And it can cause many of us to end up in a paralyzed state, not taking action because you can't take it perfectly. This is definitely a deeply rooted, and the moon is showing up in the shadow. This is a deeply, deeply rooted reflection that you are going to be asked to look at by that third week in November. What have you not been doing? What have you kept saying that you're going to be doing? What have you said you should be doing? I will be doing, but have not actually taken action on. There's something very intense in there that needs to be addressed. Let me just see if I can get another answer to this. The fear is lingers around this like disappointment. And it's not even not wanting to disappoint other people, it's not wanting to disappoint oneself, right? There is this feeling of kind of failure, but give me a better word. That's not this feeling of not good enough. That's the better word. Not good enough to try, not good enough to do, not good enough to take action, right? Like you needed more skills. It reminds me of some stories that I've had with a couple of friends, more than one friend in this regards, where they appear to be experts in their own world, right? They are called to teach, they are called to lead. And yet, instead of leading and being the expert, they will continue to choose to take more courses, find more mentors, find more people to do work underneath, right? This not good enough, this kind of fear of imperfection is a huge detriment to moving towards the things that you actually not just desire, but deserve, that you are worthy of. Let's see, week 4. Week 4 is we're going to end up in that week of Thanksgiving. And for those of us that are, um, in recovery from substance use, depending upon how long you've been in recovery, this could be one of the first holidays, like big family holidays, right? That you're approaching. And again, so interesting. So many of these cards have been reversed, right? So there is this truce, is this real process to me. This like coming to the statement is coming to Jesus with oneself, right? Kind of over and over again throughout the month. By week 4, there is this really big pull to kind of put your foot down, to be done with it, to like, I'm tired of how things have been. I'm tired of where things have not gone where I've desired. And, the picture that I'm seeing in my head right now is kind of drawing a line, and the Ace of Discs in the shadow here. So the light is the Emperor, right? And this is usually somebody that's very decisive. And again, it's reversed. Somebody that's very, powerful in their actions, defensive in what they're, protecting their time, their energy, their kingdom, so to speak. And so that being in reverse is like this feeling of just tired and deeply desiring with that Ace of Discs a new way forward, but not certain and clear on how to do it. And we go right back to that truce card, right? I'm going to ask Spirit, what are some things that we might be able to do, right? Because this is a very poignant kind of spread. They're taking me back to that Four of Swords, and there is a real big benefit this month. If you don't have the practice of regular journaling, I would strongly recommend a practice of regular journaling. Um, Going through and kind of asking yourself some questions of, what is it that I truly desire? Am I taking the actions that are going to get me towards what I desire? Am I playing an active role, or am I trying to be more passive in, allowing the world to just fall into my lap? The reality is, as witches, as magical beings, right? Um, yes, some things will just fall into your lap when you surrender, but the universe and spirit is going to be expecting you to take certain actions in life, right? They want to know that when you say you desire and you want something, you're willing to actually make the movements in the physical plane to make it happen, right? We are the physical beings in this universe. We are the individuals that need to help make sure that the movement works, that the things, the actions are taken in order to get us there. The last card that I'm going to pull, right? So we've got the wild, and when I wrote down kind of like how we would do this, Spirit said, pull a final card for the month. And that card is to represent what is going to keep us grounded through that month. What energy, what action, we'll see what it is, but keep us grounded, keep us rooted in whatever it is that we need to, right? On our healing journey, right? We're talking about these polls that I'll be doing, like I said, once a month, are meant for those individuals that are on a recovery journey, on a healing journey. And that could be from substance use, that could be from trauma, that could be from codependency, right? You get to choose. Be patient. The card, literally, how to stay grounded, is the Hanged Man came up. And when I think about this from a grounded perspective, is, be patient, pause, give yourself time. Stop trying to rush through everything. Stop trying to rush through your magic. Stop trying to rush through your reflection. Stop trying to rush through the actions that are going to get you there. Life is meant to be enjoyed. It's meant to be savored. It's meant to be, deliciously consumed, just one little tiny bite at a time. The way that you will be grounded the most in this coming month, especially as I said, we're moving into the first part of the year, right? The wheel of the year starts again, is to find patience, find the calm, find the peace, take the pause. Anything else, Spirit, that we can share with folks that are listening? I love this because I get asked often, and so it's just coming to mind, like, is there a last final thing that you'd say, when I'm a guest on? Is there anything you'd want to leave with folks? And Spirit's saying the same thing. Please don't ever think that you have to do this journey alone, right? I want you to remember that in this coming month as well, right? Sometimes we feel as though we have to rush through these things because we only get so much time by ourselves, right? We may be mothers, fathers, we may have one job, two jobs. We may be trying to juggle all sorts of various different things. And so all of this healing work, we try to like squish it and pull it into just like 5 minutes, 10 minutes out of our day. When you start to invite the people around you into your healing journey, when you start to talk with folks about what you're going through, what you're exploring, what you've been trying to uncover, what you've been going through, you get to stretch that time that you're focused on your healing and your recovery out. invite people in. Don't isolate, especially this time of the year. I can't emphasize that, anymore, especially during this time of the year. That might be the difference between you actually doing some of this work and coming to this place, once again, that Four of Swords of realization, of truth with yourself, rather than winding up at the end of the month still blind to the things that you need to uncover. I hope that you enjoyed this. I really do. One of the reasons that I want to do this is because I do want to make sure I realize that I don't tell folks that I offer one-on-one sessions. So feel free, if you are interested, you can always come find. Um, I will try my darndest to make sure that the links are dropped below. But yeah, you can schedule a session as little as 20 minutes or as lengthy as 90, and we can go deeper into your situation and kind of what's going on in your life. So until next time, my dear friends, much love from me to all of you.